This is the Pan-Africanist, Amani Africa's podcast on multilateral affairs of concern and interest for Africa and the African Union. Today we have a distinguished guest with us to share reflections and insights on the latest with respect to one of African Union's long-standing and at the moment only peace support operation. I'm talking about the African Union Support Stabilization Mission in Somalia, AUSSOM. With me is His Excellency, the Special Representative of the Chairperson of the AU Commission and Head of AUSSOM. Your Excellency, it's wonderful to have you with us. Most welcome.
It is my pleasure to be here.
You come from having worked in Mali under the United Nations mission that came to an end at the end of 2023. I would like to get your reflections before we get deep into the state of things at the African Union Support Mission in Somalia, AUSSOM. What are the lessons from your experience in Mali working under the UN mission that could be of interest and relevance for your role as head of AUSSOM in Somalia?
Reflecting back to what has been done in Mali by the United Nations, particularly MINUSMA, I would say a lot has been done. A lot has been achieved. A lot more could have been done. Mm-hmm. Mali, when we see today how it is heartbreaking for people like us who are neighbors, who are brothers, who really deeply love Mali. It is difficult to imagine what is happening today. The lack of political will on all sides, be it from the government side and also for the armed groups who signed the agreement. I would say a lot of missed opportunities. About MINUSMA, as I said, a lot has been done up to the mandate renewal that end up with the request of the sovereign request of Mali for MINUSMA to leave. In 6 months, we worked hard to do this very difficult task, to have the mission downsize and have more than 12,000 to 15,000 people leave Mali. It was a big challenge, and we didn't lose lives during this period. Today, we wish the best for Mali, for Niger, for Burkina Faso. We cannot, as African, as neighbors, as brothers, as sisters, stand and look at what is happening. That is why it is interesting what is happening in Somalia, where it is a Somali-led process. Could we imagine a Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger-led process under their terms, under their condition, being supported by their neighbors, by other countries, by multilateral partners, by international partners, traditional partners, non-traditional partners, in a well-thought support to them based on deeply rooted needs. It should not be something kinetic only or military only. There is a need for a political process. Is it thinkable today to take advantage of what is happening, to open up political processes, democratical processes, mediation, reconciliation among nationals of these three countries, and move forward together out of these difficult cycles they are in? This is my wish as an African, as a Senegalese, as a brother. We wish them the best. They deserve the best, because today they are at the front line. If they do not succeed, it will continue. And that is why we should not wait. We need to go proactively, but help them based on their needs, help them based on the priorities they defined. help them on the process that they consensually agreed upon. It is key because now we have this sovereignty aspect. We need to respect and value that.
Excellent. I think there are a lot of points that you have raised. One, the importance of the nature of the relationship between national authorities and the support that comes from the region and from the international community. That it has to be grounded in national needs and basically interest. All right. So basically, there is a question of ownership. There is a question of leadership. There is a question also of these engagements being demand-driven rather than supply-driven. These are extremely important. Basically, part of the lesson, including for Somalia, is that however good your support is, however thoughtful it may be, if it was not driven by the demand of the national authorities and the national public, then it wouldn't go far. So the importance of basically anchoring international engagement and support on national needs, on the demands of the people, on the needs of the people, on basically making sure that it is demand driven. I think
you nailed it.
That indeed. So your question about your point about it can't just be kinetic, because there is so far that kinetic approach to responding to the kind of crisis that Mali and the Sahelian countries, broadly speaking, are facing, which is similar to what Somalia is facing, right? Indeed, what AMISOM, ATMIS, AUSSOM illustrate is basically that there is so much you can push with a kinetic approach. All right, you made the point, is there an opportunity under the current circumstances for us to push for a political process to facilitate dialogue among Malians and Nigerian brothers and among Burkina Fasos? How do we engage in order to facilitate this thing? I think the point that you made on these countries of and of itself is absolutely relevant and profound. Are we doing enough as neighbors, as ECOWAS, as the African Union, in terms of basically putting out the fire that is engulfing these countries? And as you rightly said, if these countries completely overtaken by this fire, all of us, all of us will be burned by this. So indeed, the imperative and urgency of what you said is extremely important. But it has also relevance and resonance to what we are experiencing in Somalia. Now that brings me, in terms of the role of the African Union mission in Somalia. Now it is about, 17 years?
Yes, 2007.
Now actually 2 years before, arriving at 20 years of deployment of the AU mission in Somalia. There is a question of why is it that after 20 years we are unable to make the level of progress that is necessary to enable Somalis to assume full responsibility and sovereignty on their territory?
A lot has been done in Somalia. I think if we go back to 2007, up to now, the democratic process, we were just celebrating the 25 years of ARTA. Somalis themselves, they did a lot. But instead of seeing the glass half empty, I am to see it half full. And see opportunities in terms of what is missing. Today, when you come to Mogadishu, you are impressed by the vivacity of the city, the blooming of skyscrapers, traffic jams. Clearly, improvements are visible. yes, you have checkpoint, you have this need for security. When I arrived in July in Mogadishu, there was this narrative of this counter-offensive of Al-Shabaab since the end of Ramadan, that they would be in the outskirts of Mogadishu. With the Somalis, we planned together, worked together, designed together Operation Silent Storm. We were able to recapture 3 major cities that are key for the security, the largest security of Mogadishu: Atoll, Barere, and Audigle. Audigle is 80 to 90 kilometers from Mogadishu. So there is a larger ring of security. And this is just one side of the efforts being done by Somalis. In the larger side, in the Delta, in the Irshabelle, in Juba, a lot is being done. So we can see it half full instead of half empty. Yes, there are challenges. The challenges are also linked to the level of the resources that this country has. Today, in terms of education, in terms of reforms, in terms of political process, dialogue, Somali politicians are talking each other. They are not agreeing on everything, but they are talking. I think this is a good sign. This needs to be continued because it is through the dialogue, through the reconciliation, through this consensus-driven process that they will find the best solution for themselves. Partners are coming to support. Partners are coming to ease. But the main bulk of the work is to be done by Somali. And I believe they are doing it. Now, we can be frustrated in some sides that it is not going quickly enough, but it is the complexity of this country. On our side, AUSSOM, our mandate is clear, is to support a Somali-led political peace and security process. So we are supporting Somali based on their own driven, decided priorities and aspirations. We are doing it by blood, by sacrifices, with Somalis dying and Africans side by side for what they believe is right. Today is degrading, defeating Al-Shabaab. And also ISS in the far north. We have challenges because if you look at the evolution of the African mission in Somalia, from AMISOM to ATMIS, AUSSOM is the result of the downsize phase. It goes with difficulties of transfer of our position to the SNAs. They do have challenges. They are working a lot in the regeneration of their forces, on logistics, on supplies, on equipment. So not everything is perfect, but a lot of efforts are ongoing. I believe that they need to be, the support they are receiving, they need to be continued, they need to be amplified, they need to be accelerated. On our side, everybody knows on the issue of funding, it is a challenge. Funding conferences one has been done in the margin of the UNGA. It provided result with support from Great Britain, from Italy, from Spain. But still, we have a lot of gaps in the resources that should be adequate for the mandate we are asked to implement. We are working with our Somali brothers, the FGS, to discuss how we can work with what we have. We are doing the same with our HQ, with the African Union, how we can do more with what we have and what can we have more. Partners has been there for the African Union, the European Union, the Americans for years. What you hear from them is fatigue. What you hear from them is burden sharing. What you hear from them is competing priorities, but also emerging partners, multilateral partners coming in But in the case of AUSSOM, the multilateral partners didn't chime in yet in terms of contribution. Maybe it is one area of improvement or where the potential has to be optimized.
I think that's a very important point, particularly if we link it with the profoundly least appreciated element of the sacrifices that have been made, that the women and men under the African Union flag who laid down their lives in thousands, who sacrificed their limbs in thousands. They did so, yes, in pursuit of Pan-African solidarity, but also as a contribution to the maintenance of international peace and security. So I wonder if, as you said, there is a need for the international community to step up, given the level of sacrifice that is being paid, for which there is no numerical or, monetary value. We are talking about the lives of men and women who are on a daily basis putting themselves on the line. Do you think there is a level of the international community not shouldering its part of the burden? Because if individual men and women in thousands are laying down their lives, but they are left without the resources required to advance this international peace and security, how can we say that the international community is shouldering its part of the burden?
It is very difficult to point fingers because they have been supporting for years. I think there is a geopolitical evolution and it has impact. Now, how can we go about it? What can we do? I think the African Union gives an example by getting 20 million out of its peace fund. A lot of advocacy, a lot of effort has been done by the Commission, discussing with partners, convincing them, trying to get them contribute more. The UN, we tried this 2719.
Resolution 2719, that's right.
We need to think thoroughly on how we can continue to get the support of key players on this. Maybe look at some angles that we can agree upon and move forward, be pragmatical. And it should not be a slogan. I think it has been voted. Now, let's see how to pragmatically apply it with a strong UN and AU partnership. I think it can yield result, but we need to open to the EU Peace Fund also, and also as a partners, and see also internal effort, public-private effort in the African community itself. Some national funds maybe see innovative approach of financing, for example, levying some taxes on some maybe high technology, all this aspect. This free trade agreement, if it is being applied, how can it contribute to the financing of the AU? And also see the AU reform itself as an opportunity to improve this innovative approach on financing.
Financing of peace and security.
Yes.
Some of these ideas, of course, will not resolve the immediate challenge facing AUSSOM, the immediate funding challenge facing AUSSOM, because the gap that exists financially is so enormous. If this enormous financial gap couldn't be filled because of non-application of 2719, if it couldn't be filled despite the increasing financial burden that the African Union and its member states are shouldering through elevating their contribution, financial contribution, beyond and above the lives and limbs that are being laid down or sacrificed. If bilateral contribution falls very, very short of filling the enormous gap. So what are the options that are being considered in order to make the necessary adjustment and make the mission operate within the available resources, and whether or not actually there is also a thinking about maybe we should elevate and prioritize political solutions more and more because of the constraints in terms of sustaining the size and nature of the mission. But I wonder, what are the scenarios? What are the options?
All the scenario has been planned for, but I don't want to be speculative because it is a very sensitive subject, very difficult, implicating a lot of aspects and angles. So allow me to not go deep into that because it is ongoing. We don't want to say anything that will jeopardize or make more difficult some solutions. So I can reassure you that the African Union, AUSSOM, the FGS themselves, we are working together, hands to hands, on working on all these difficulties and how we can fix them. That is why this partnership we have in Somalia is very, very interesting. The country is in the lead, supported by its neighbors, regional partners, the African Union, multilateral international partners, and always transparently discussing and devising what is the best way forward. I think we will continue to do that with all our partners and trying to find what is the best today for Somalia, for the Somalis themselves, with them in the lead and us in the supporting side.
The transition from ATMIS to AUSSOM has been ongoing, and there have been certain phases that were laid out. Where are we currently in the process of that transition from ATMIS to AUSSOM?
No, AUSSOM is here, and we updated our exit strategy with the FGS and the UN. We worked together. We went through the mandatory reporting called a benchmarking exercise. We finished that. The report is at the Security Council. So I think we have done a lot of progress. We acknowledge challenges. Now we discuss the exit strategy of AUSSOM. A few words about it. We agreed on what are the conditions that needs to be driving our progress. We agreed on, because we didn't want it to be open-ended, we agreed on the time constraint. But we agreed also that it should be performance-driven. So we update regularly, reassess, and agree together on where we are at, how we are doing, and where we are going.
What is the timeline we are looking at when we talk about exit?
As it is still at the Security Council, I didn't want to give any...
Okay. So there is an update from the current mandate of potentially ending in 2029.
Yes, there is a readjustment, but I don't want to go into the detail as it is sensitive.
Fully understood. I think the fact that you said there is work on the exit strategy, which is condition-based, performance-based, but also time-bound. I think these are indeed building on the previous work that has been done about even the planning towards ATMIS as the final stage initially that was imagined informs, of course, all of these considerations in terms of informing the exit of AUSSOM. And here, I think one of the considerations, at least previously, to which you also spoke about, is the generation of Somali National Security Forces, and at a scale, at a level of coherence, with the necessary equipment, and also organizational arrangement, right? And this, from what you said earlier on, is a work in progress, all right? But if you were to advise partners in terms of the support that would be most impactful for facilitating this process with respect to Somali National Force, what would be that very important support from partners that would advance this generation of?
Interestingly, the Minister of Defense himself and the CDF, the Chief Defense Forces, they were at the Senate and they briefed the parliamentarian on all these aspects. So I would not refer you to that, but the most updated has been provided by the Minister of Defense and the Chief of Defense Force. I think a lot of interesting information and valuable information, and from the Somalis themselves, has been shared. As a respectful partner, I don't want publicly to say what I would recommend to Somalia. Yes, but
for partners,
they are best placed to define their needs. I am working behind the scene with them on sharing as a key partner with them what we think, but I don't want today publicly to say that this would be the best way to support them. They are the best place to decide on, and the partners are talking with them. We are working together. We have a national JOC, we have a national operation center, we have a joint operation center together, and we are evaluating, planning together, conducting operation together, reassessing together. So I think we have a very strong partnership. Between partners, I think there is a mutual respect and consideration that make difficult for me to take some position.
Great. If we shift gear a bit and talk about the role of troop contributing countries in the context of advancing, the objectives of AUSSOM, how do you see? I would imagine that currently they are actually shouldering quite much more than what they have signed for in terms of the presence of the troops. How sustainable do you think this level of shouldering the burden in the way it is today moving forward? And what kind of engagement are you having with TCCs? That is, I think, also one important dimension of the equation. Yeah.
TCC, PCCs, they deserve tribute. They deserve respect. They have been impressive, unbelievable in terms of engagement, in terms of sacrifices, in terms of efforts, national efforts in this endeavor to support, to contribute to AUSSOM, but also to support Somalia, often in addition to do it in bilateral. They are taking a lot of the burden. That is why at the HQ level, at the AU level, we are working very closely with them to make sure that whatever we know, they know. A level of info sharing, a level of reporting to them, so they know the issues, the potential impact on their troops, on their decision, so they are best placed to decide if they want to go forward or not. And based on their return, based on their feedback, African Union is taking position. I think this level of partnership is very important because they are key players. AUSSOM would have not been without the troop contributing countries. So they are, me as head of AUSSOM, I am privileged to see what they are doing. And my hat's off to them, and they deserve a vibrant tribute for what they are doing and they are continuing to do.
If we look at the management of missions now, you were in the UN, now you are in the AU. You are best placed to see the difference of the management of missions by the UN and by the African Union. What would you say, for example, some of the best practices of the UN that may be tailored and applied by the African Union to make the AU's role on the ground more effective?
I think this is work in progress. The AU and the UN has a very strong partnership, including sharing of best practices. The AU today is the result of its own evolution of all this experience since 2000 in Burundi. And all this APSA, all this structure, mechanism in place, norms, protocols, they have a very sophisticated at the AU architecture. Me, when I joined, I was impressed. There are always room for improvement, like all organizations. They need to behave as a learning organization, to be able to identify issues, reflect on it, and see best practice out there and what can be adapted to improve. We have a lesson learned process, the second lesson learned process of the African Union in Abuja, doing exactly that. If you look at the program, this is at the core of the reflection. How today the African Union can improve its peace operations. How today the African Union can improve its standby force. I think this is ongoing. Honestly, I am very proud I joined the African Union. It was not an easy choice, but me as an African, I take as a privilege to be called upon by the African organization to contribute and serve. So that's why we are here, very humbly, trying to do our best to contribute to our African organization. We are privileged as African to be in a position where we can contribute greatly. I think this is a blessing, and that is why we are particularly motivated and engaged on what we are doing in Somalia. We knew exactly what we were getting into. And I am humbled by the level of engagement of our soldiers, of our officers, of our enlisted, of our non-commissioned officers, be it the military, the police, the civilian staff, the Somalis themselves. That is why I believe in AUSSOM. I believe that we have a lot to do.
How much is that sacrifice, that contribution of AUSSOM known and appreciated by ordinary Somalis? What kind of feedback are you getting from
Respect,
Somalis?
consideration, gratitude, everywhere. At the airport, in the street, when they identify you as African, as member of AUSSOM. This is a great people. They are grateful. They appreciate, they know the effort that the African brothers and sisters are doing for them, and they do appreciate it at its real value.
But we also hear sometimes that there is a sense that maybe, a lot of attention is being given for AUSSOM and its staff that, sometimes Somalis saying, why is that the international community not directing that to Somalis themselves?
The Somalis are the best defender of AUSSOM. They are the one doing advocacy, ministers traveling to ask partners to support AUSSOM. You saw the president in all his travel, he is asking partners to support AUSSOM because we are together in this battle. We are together in this challenge. Me, I don't see a difference between SNA and our troops. When we have an injured, we don't make a difference. We casevac, we medevac. We bring to the level 2. We do the triage. We support. Today, at this level of integration, of partnership we have, we are almost the same. So this issue is not a fact for us. I have never met animosity, hostility, because you are AUSSOM, because you are African. Somalis are so grateful. They want even AUSSOM to have the best instead of them, because this is the level of generosity they have. This is a level of respect and consideration they have for people coming to support them. They forget themselves and put forward AUSSOM, and we do respect and appreciate them.
Now, we are coming to the end of our conversation, and we are really grateful for your very grounded insight in terms of the kind of dynamics that are currently at play in AUSSOM. Have all the troops of AUSSOM been deployed?
Yes, today, all our troops are on the ground.
One important aspect of international cooperation that embodies AU's deployment in Somalia is, for a long period of time, the support from the European Union has been the backbone of the financing of AUSSOM. Then the logistic support of the UN, basically really international cooperation and multilateral cooperation at its best, with the AU bringing and really people with their lives and limbs, with that kind of logistic support from the UN, and then from the EU side. Now, the latest information that we have, as far as the logistic support of the UN, is that there may actually be substantial or significant reduction of the resources available for UN logistic support to AUSSOM. And how would that get factored in addition to the significant financial gap that AUSSOM has?
We are working together again. They develop a contingency plan on how this reduction would be translated in what they can do. They shared with the African Union. The African Union shared with the troop contributing country. And there will be a delegation of the African Union going to work with DOS at UNHQ, the practical details of how to go about it. We are work in progress on that. I think it is also an example of good partnership where we are together, we discuss, we share info, and we work on what the best solutions are. The European Union is a key player in AUSSOM and in the support to the African Union. We have a great partnership, and it is very, very much appreciated. We are in contact with them, and we are working because we have this AU-EU conference in Luanda, where there is a possibility of pledging. So work in progress also. We are always optimistic, and we are hopeful. We believe that there are always opportunities out there. We have to be prepared to size them and optimize them to be the most efficient possible. That is our approach with AUSSOM, with all our partners: engagement, transparency, truthfulness, openness, but hardworking. We believe that as African, we should give the good example and avoid this easy criticism that some are doing. But we have to make sure that it is not happening. On how we do every day our business on the ground, with professionalism, with the men and women we have, and the support we are receiving from Somalis, from African Union, from our multilateral partners, and from the UN. We believe that there is a lot to do, and we can achieve it together.
Excellent. Indeed, I can't agree more with you that we owe it to those who laid down their lives, to those who sacrificed their limbs, to those, both Somalis but also AUSSOM troops and police and civilian personnel who, in the line of duty, had to bear the consequences, including the ultimate sacrifice. That we have to do better, we have to work harder and ensure that the gains that have been secured are not reversed. At the same time, it would also mean that we need to rethink how we do the engagement of AUSSOM. Prioritizing politics, extremely important. Ultimately, with all, as you rightly said at the beginning of our conversation, kinetic engagement will take you only so far. We need to accelerate the state building, stabilization efforts, the national reconciliation process, the federal and state institutions working together, the generation of forces. All these are key ingredients for actually successfully, as you rightly said, to bring the securely the exit of AUSSOM and the assumption of full responsibility by Somalis. And indeed, I think there is expectation that Somalia leaders and political elites will step up to the demand of the moment, not least of all because of the constraints, including financial constraints, that AUSSOM is facing. And we wish you, Adamani Africa, the very best in your incredible effort that exemplifies African Union's role through peace support operations on the ground. It is the only mission at the moment that the African Union has. It is the longest running mission that the AU has. There is a lot at stake for the AU, both from a historical perspective, but also in terms of lessons learned. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's really wonderful to talk to you.
And thank you to your team also.